Child, what happens when the internet's most notorious troll stops trolling and actually pulls the trigger? On March 5th, 2026, and I need y'all to hear this clearly, 50 Cent posted, then deleted, an Instagram screenshot with a single headline. 50 Cent reportedly developing Surviving T.I. and Tiny documentary. One post. That's all it took. One single screenshot. Up for maybe an hour, 2 at the most, an entire rap industry went sideways. Comment sections caught fire. Group chats exploded. Industry phones started buzzing at the same time. Because this wasn't a meme. This wasn't 50 being funny for the timeline. This was a warning shot. And if you know what 50 Cent just finished doing to Diddy, you already know why everybody went dead silent. Before we unpack all of this, and love, there's a lot to unpack, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the Tribune Realm if you haven't already. Turn on that notification bell because this story is still developing in real time, and I promise you, you do not want to miss what comes next. Alright? Okay, let's get into it. Here's what I need y'all to understand before we go any further. This is no longer a rap beef. This stopped being about music a long time ago. What we're watching unfold right now is a case study in what happens when someone with unlimited petty energy, a production budget, and a proven track record of destroying public images decides to aim all of that firepower at one family. And the question at the center of all of it, the one nobody can answer cleanly, is whether 50 Cent is holding someone accountable or weaponizing a platform to settle a personal score. That's what we're here to break down today. All of it. The timeline, the evidence, the allegations, the legal history, the music, the memes, the family, everything. Now I already know. I already know what certain people are going to say in the comments. Oh, you're just a T.I. fan. Or, oh, you're just hating on 50. Nah. That is not what this is. This is a breakdown of facts. Documented, time-stamped, sourced facts. And some of y'all won't want to hear all of them because they complicate the narrative you've already decided on. But that's exactly why channels like this one exist. We don't do the surface-level hot takes. We go deeper. So if you appreciate that, support the channel so everybody can see this. Share this video, because the algorithm buries stuff like this if y'all don't engage with it. That's just real talk. Okay, alright, now let me take y'all back. To really understand why that deleted screenshot hit the way it did, you have to rewind. You gotta go back to the moment that first cracked this whole thing open. Because before the documentary threats, before the diss tracks, before any of the family got involved, there was supposed to be a celebration. T.I. and 50 Cent were reportedly in talks for a Versus battle, that iconic platform where rap legends go head-to-head, catalog against catalog, bar for bar, and T.I. described it publicly on camera in interviews as a mutual respect moment. Two of the most decorated rappers of their entire generation, finally sharing a stage to honor what they'd both built. T.I. said it clearly. It was really about celebrating each other's catalog. And look, he wasn't just saying that to hype it up. He went further. He said, and I quote, "Me and this dude talked about this, bro. I ain't just called a man out the blue. We talked about this." You hear that? He's saying conversations happened. Agreements were made. They were on the same page. So imagine being T.I. You go public with that. You tell the world what's coming. You get your fans excited. And then 50 Cent does what 50 Cent always does. He flips the script. He denied any agreement had ever been made. Played completely dumb in interviews. Acted like the whole Versus idea was brand new information to him. Dismissed T.I. publicly. And this is the part that really set things off. He hit T.I. with a nickname. King Rat. Now, for anyone outside of hip-hop culture, let me explain why that's nuclear. In the streets, calling someone a rat isn't shade. It isn't banter. It is the single worst accusation you can level at somebody. It means you're calling them a snitch, a cooperator, someone who gave information to law enforcement. And in the world T.I. and 50 both came from, that label doesn't wash off. Ever. T.I. himself has spoken on this. They'll say he a rat, or he just snitched. All you gotta do is ask him, who did I tell on? And you could hear it in his voice. That wasn't performance anger. That was real. Because when you come from that background, when your credibility in the streets is literally the foundation your entire career was built on, an accusation like that hits different than any punchline ever could. So T.I. did what any self-respecting MC would do. He went to the $1 million worth of game podcast and laid it all out. No filter, no PR team scripting his answers, just raw frustration. We talked about this. We said what we were going to do. When I jumped out there, he acted like he ain't know what was going on. And the timing could not have been worse. Or better, depending on whose side you're looking at this from. Because right when all of this was going down, T.I.'s single, Let Him Know, had just climbed to #1 on urban radio. It was crossing into the mainstream top 40. He was having a genuine, undeniable career resurgence. The kind that reminded everybody exactly why Clifford Harris mattered in the first place. And 50's dismissal? It landed right in the middle of all of it, casting a long shadow over everything T.I. was working to rebuild. And loves. I need to be honest here, if this was calculated, if 50 timed that deliberately to step on T.I.'s moment, that's a level of strategic pettiness that honestly borders on psychological warfare. But the Verzuz fallout, the social media callouts, the king rat name calling, that was just the opening move. And y'all, 50 was not done. Not by a long shot. This is where the situation pivoted from a rap beef into something that made a lot of people genuinely uncomfortable. And I'm going to let you draw your own line on exactly where too far begins. But I think most reasonable people would agree that this moment was well past it. 50 Cent went back to Instagram, the platform he has weaponized more effectively than any public figure in history, and posted an unflattering photograph of T.I.'s wife, Tamika Tiny Harris. The accompanying caption doubled down on telling T.I. to keep his name out of his mouth. But the real message wasn't encoded in the words. It was encoded in the target selection, by deliberately dragging Tiny into the conflict. 50 made something unmistakably clear to everyone watching. This was no longer a dispute between two rappers. He was coming for the entire family, publicly, aggressively, with millions of people watching every single move in real time. And he did it with the casual confidence of a man who knows there's essentially nothing anyone can do to stop him. Someone on the internet made a comment about this that I think captures the dynamic perfectly. It's cutting, but it's also kind of true. 50 Cent should literally rent a wife and kids and have them make disresponses. The fact that he would actually have to rent a woman and children to respond on his behalf is telling. That's a brutal observation. It didn't come from me, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't land with a specific kind of weight. Because T.I. has something in this equation that 50, at least publicly, does not. A unified family front. A wife and children who are not only willing, but prepared to step into the fray on his behalf. And they were about to make that abundantly clear. T.I. responded the way a rapper of his caliber responds when his back is against the wall. Through the music. And he responded fast. He dropped multiple diss tracks in rapid succession, including War and The Right One, and he came loaded with the kind of bars that reminded the culture exactly why this man was a problem on the microphone. On The Right One, he called 50 a small man in a big shell. And that wasn't a freestyle bar that fell out of a booth session at 2 a.m. That was a crafted, deliberate, surgically precise line aimed directly at the ego of a man whose entire public identity is built on dominance, intimidation, and bravado. It was designed to do maximum psychological damage with minimum syllables. That's the kind of writing that only comes from a lyricist operating at full capacity with genuine anger fueling the pen. Commentators across the culture picked up on the quality immediately. One breakdown noted, T.I. is a lyricist, man. He was barring up on this one. He brought up the Jadakiss situation, Fat Joe, Murder Incorporated, the burned down house. He was definitely throwing real shots. But the single bar that truly set the internet ablaze, the one that got screenshotted and shared and debated for days, was T.I. calling 50 a dispatcher. That word wasn't chosen randomly. That was a direct, unambiguous, zero room for interpretation accusation that Curtis Jackson had cooperated with federal law enforcement. And T.I. didn't leave it as an abstract insult. He went further. He claimed that paperwork existed, actual federal documents for men currently incarcerated in federal prison, with 50 Cent's name on them. That's not a punchline. That's not a diss track bar that you laugh at and move on from. That's a documented accusation that carries weight in circles far removed from any streaming platform. That's the kind of claim that follows a person into boardrooms, into business negotiations, into every future interaction with anyone who heard it. And T.I. made it loudly, publicly, and with apparent conviction. And then something happened that genuinely caught me off guard. The Harris family turned this into a coordinated offensive. T.I.'s sons, King Harris and Domani, both dropped their own diss tracks in directly at 50 Cent. This wasn't T.I. putting his kids up to something for clout. This was a family that collectively decided they were not going to sit back and watch their father and their name get dragged through the mud without responding with everything they had. King Harris was direct about it. He said plainly, "I treated people how they treated us. It wasn't nothing I wanted to do. It was just something that had to be done." There's a simplicity in that statement that makes it hit harder. He's not bragging. He's not performing. He's saying this was a necessity. Domani took a different approach entirely. His track had a more cerebral energy, more analytical, more probing. He said, "I just have questions. I'm an understanding individual, and I know the reasons people do certain things probably stem from how they grew up, how they were raised." Let that sit for a moment. That's a young man publicly psychoanalyzing a grown man 3 times his age on a diss track. And he's doing it calmly, methodically, without raising his voice. And somehow that restraint makes it more devastating than any shouted bar ever could. This was no longer 2 rappers exchanging subliminals on social media. This was a fully mobilized family unit responding in coordinated fashion. For most people in the industry, that level of unified pushback would signal that the moment had arrived to de-escalate, to pull back, to read the room and recognize that the cost-benefit analysis of continuing the conflict had shifted. But 50 Cent had already moved on to something far more dangerous than any Instagram caption or freestyle session, and the entire industry was about to discover what it was. If you're still with me, and I know you are because this story only gets more intense from here, do me a favor and drop a like on this video right now. It genuinely helps push this content out to more people, and every single one of those clicks makes a real difference. All right, now settle in, because what comes next is the part that changed everything. Before the T.I. documentary threat makes complete sense, before you can fully appreciate why the entire music industry collectively held its breath when that screenshot surfaced, you need to understand what 50 Cent had just finished accomplishing. Because it is the single, solitary reason the entertainment world went dead quiet. Toward the end of 2025, 50 Cent served as executive producer on a Netflix docuseries titled Sean Combs, The Reckoning. And that series hit the culture like nothing anyone was prepared for. It debuted at #1 on the platform immediately upon release. It examined the sprawling, deeply disturbing sexual assault allegations against Sean Diddy Combs alongside decades of industry behavior that the entertainment world had long whispered about behind closed doors, but never dared put on screen with that kind of production value, that kind of reach, and that kind of unflinching directness. It became the most discussed documentary of the entire year. Not just in music circles. Everywhere. Mainstream news covered it. Late night shows referenced it. It became unavoidable cultural conversation. And 50 Cent's name was stamped across every piece of it. Now, in the interest of precision, Netflix did later clarify that 50 did not have full creative control over the final product and that none of the participants received payment for their involvement. Those are significant details, and I'm not going to pretend they don't matter. But here's the thing about the court of public opinion. It doesn't operate on the same evidentiary standards as a court of law. In the court of public opinion, what matters is the outcome. And the outcome was absolutely catastrophic for Diddy's public image. The LAPD opened a formal investigation. Law enforcement took the allegations seriously enough to dedicate investigative resources and interview potential witnesses. And after conducting a thorough review, they declined to file any criminal charges. The stated reason was the statute of limitations. Too much time had elapsed between the alleged conduct and the filing of formal complaints for prosecutors to pursue criminal cases on most of what had been alleged. I need to pause here and make something very clear, because this is the single most commonly misunderstood aspect of the entire saga. The decision not to prosecute due to statute of limitations is not, repeat, not, a declaration of innocence. It is a legal determination that a specific procedural window for prosecution had closed. Those are fundamentally different things, and conflating them in either direction, treating the lack of charges as proof of innocence or treating the allegations themselves as proof of guilt, is intellectually dishonest regardless of which side does it. On the civil litigation front, the proceedings continued longer. But in August of 2024, a federal judge dismissed one of the most prominent civil lawsuits filed against the couple. T.I. and Tiny's legal representatives stated that the court determined the plaintiff had no viable claims. Throughout all of it, T.I. and Tiny have maintained a consistent, unwavering position. We are innocent of these fake claims. We will not be shaken down. And the legal record closed criminal investigations, dismissed civil cases, provided them with real, documented, defensible protection within the framework of the justice system. But here is the complicating factor that makes this entire situation so profoundly difficult to navigate. 50 Cent is not operating inside the justice system. He's not filing motions. He's not presenting evidence before a judge. He's operating inside a media ecosystem where perception travels at the speed of light and legal rulings travel at the speed of bureaucracy. And he has already demonstrated, in devastating and thoroughly documented fashion, exactly how effectively he can manipulate that ecosystem. This brings me to the dimension of this story that I think truly needs to be understood, because it extends far beyond T.I. and far beyond 50 Cent as an individual. This is about the apparatus one man has built over a quarter century and what it means when that apparatus is aimed in your direction. Curtis James Jackson III did not become the music industry's most feared media operator by accident. His evolution from rapper to cultural weapon is one of the most calculated transformations in modern entertainment history. In the early 2000s, his arsenal was diss tracks. The Get Rich or Die Tryin' era. You cross 50. You got a record that ended your relevance. By the 2010s, it was Instagram. Memes, captions, unflattering photographs deployed with surgical timing to humiliate targets in front of tens of millions of followers before they'd even finished their morning coffee. But by the mid-2020s, he had upgraded to something the music industry had genuinely no established defense against. Long-form documentary production backed by major platform distribution. And the Diddy project was the proof of concept. It demonstrated definitively that 50 Cent could attach his name to a project that would sit on Netflix indefinitely, be served algorithmically to new audiences for years after its initial release, and permanently reshape how the world perceived someone he had chosen to target. Netflix's clarification about creative control didn't soften the cultural impact by a single degree. The outcome was the only thing that mattered. And in the aftermath, 50 made it publicly known, casually, almost cheerfully, that approximately 140 hours of additional footage existed that never made the final cut. And he hinted, openly and without any attempt at subtlety, that he could push that surplus material directly to YouTube. No network required, no editorial oversight, no approval process standing between him and distribution. That wasn't idle speculation from a man running his mouth. That was a standing, documented, open-ended threat backed by tangible assets and a demonstrated willingness to follow through. And now the same apparatus, the same infrastructure, the same playbook, the same weaponized combination of media savvy, production resources, platform access, and sheer relentless determination that dismantled Diddy's public image on a global scale is allegedly being aimed at T.I. The difference between a rapper dissing you on a track and a media mogul producing a documentary about your life isn't merely a matter of scale. It's a matter of permanence. A song fades, an algorithm buries it within weeks. But a documentary lives on a platform forever. It becomes the top search result for your name. It follows you into every professional interaction for the rest of your life. Your children see it. Your grandchildren find it. Business partners discover it before a meeting and form opinions about you before you've said a single word. 50 Cent understands that distinction with a clarity that is almost frightening. And that understanding, that deliberate weaponization of platform permanence, is what makes this entire situation genuinely unprecedented. As if the documentary thread alone wasn't sufficient, 50 made sure to carry the offensive into his music as well. On the Power Origins theme song, connected to his long-running, massively successful television franchise, he dropped bars that directly referenced the sexual assault allegations against T.I. and Tiny. The line was explicit, it was graphic, and it was engineered to accomplish one specific objective: ensure that those allegations remain embedded in every headline, every comment section, and every conversation about T.I.'s career for as long as the song exists on a streaming platform. That's not a diss track in any traditional sense. That's an ongoing information campaign woven into an entertainment property with millions of dedicated viewers. The boundary between music and media manipulation has been eroded so thoroughly at this point that it's genuinely difficult to identify where one ends and the other begins. So where does all of this leave T.I.? The answer is standing at the most dangerous crossroads of his entire career. He is simultaneously trying to cement a legacy and defend a reputation against someone with significant resources, significant reach, and a documented track record of following through on exactly the kind of threat he's currently making. Kill the King was supposed to be T.I.'s farewell, his final statement, a legacy project from one of the most decorated MCs of the entire 2000s era. The man who helped give Atlanta its blueprint before Atlanta gave the world trap music. He had a #1 single, a full promotional infrastructure in motion, the kind of victory lap that a rapper earns after surviving 2 decades of everything the industry throws at you. Instead, every conversation about that album now exists under a shadow shaped precisely like 50 Cent. Every interview gets redirected toward the drama. Every comment section gets flooded with references to the allegations. Everything piece comes with an asterisk that nobody asked for. And 50 made sure of that outcome. Deliberately, publicly, strategically, and if his history is any indication, permanently. The reaction to all of this has been immediate, passionate, and wildly split. On one side, there are people who view 50 Cent as performing a genuine public service. They point to the Diddy documentary as evidence that he's willing to go where mainstream media won't, that he's willing to absorb criticism and backlash in order to amplify stories that might otherwise remain suppressed. They argue that dismissed cases and expired statutes of limitations don't mean nothing happened. They simply mean the legal system had structural limitations that prevented it from reaching a resolution. And they believe that if there are genuine victims whose stories have never been adequately heard, a documentary might be the only vehicle remaining to give them a platform. On the opposite side, and this is a substantial, vocal portion of the conversation, many people see this as textbook weaponization of media infrastructure. They argue that 50 Cent has a personal vendetta rooted in ego and that he escalated what should have been a minor rap beef into something grotesque and unrecognizable. They point to the dismissed cases, the absence of criminal charges, T.I. and Tiny's consistent and unwavering denials. And they pose a question that deserves honest consideration. At what point does accountability become harassment with a production budget? And there's a third camp, perhaps the quietest, but potentially the largest, made up of people who are simply exhausted. People who think both of these men are too old and too accomplished for this kind of public destruction. People who believe the culture deserves better than watching two legends tear each other apart for engagement metrics. People who just wanted to see a Versus battle between two great catalogs and instead got a front row seat to a public demolition that nobody asked for and nobody benefits from. I think all three perspectives contain legitimate points. And I think the discomfort of not being able to pick a clean, uncomplicated side is actually the most honest and intellectually responsible position to occupy. But here's the dimension of this story that gets lost in the noise, and it's the thing I genuinely want to leave embedded in your thinking long after this video ends. This situation exposes something structural, something systemic, about where we are in entertainment culture at this exact moment in history. We have entered an era where a single individual with sufficient media infrastructure can simultaneously function as investigator, prosecutor, judge, content producer, and global distributor, all at once, with no oversight, no editorial review board, no legal standard of evidence, and no institutional check on their power. 50 Cent did not have to prove anything in a courtroom to produce the Diddy documentary. He had to produce compelling content for a platform that rewards engagement metrics above all other considerations. And that model, that pipeline from personal grudge to produce content to global distribution, doesn't just affect T.I. It affects every single person in entertainment. Because if it works once, it establishes precedent. If it works twice, it becomes a replicable model. And if it becomes a replicable model, then where does it end? Every feud in the industry concludes with a documentary series. Every personal conflict gets packaged into a 4-part expose with cinematic production value. The enabling factors here extend far beyond 50 Cent's individual ambition or personal grudges. There's an entire ecosystem at work. Streaming platforms are perpetually hungry for controversial content that drives engagement. Gossip outlets are financially incentivized to amplify unverified claims because those claims generate traffic. Social media algorithms systematically reward outrage over nuance because outrage keeps people on the platform longer. And the audience, all of us, every single person consuming this content, participates in an economy that makes this kind of content extraordinarily profitable to produce. Nobody in T.I.'s inner circle, no friend, no advisor, no manager, no label executive, could have reasonably predicted that a failed Verzeaux negotiation would metastasize into an existential threat to the man's entire legacy. But that's exactly what happened, and the machinery that produced this outcome isn't going anywhere. If anything, it's getting more powerful, more accessible, and more difficult to counteract with every passing month. So here is the question that deserves to sit with you long after you close this video. And it is not a question with an easy answer. Is 50 Cent a fearless truth teller? A man with the resources and the willingness to hold powerful people accountable for conduct that the legal system was structurally unable to address? Someone brave enough to take the heat, absorb the criticism, and amplify voices that might otherwise remain permanently silenced? Or is he a man nursing a personal grudge? A grudge that started with a failed Verzeaux negotiation and a bruised ego, who happens to possess a production budget and a global platform, and who is using allegations that courts have already declined to prosecute as ammunition in a conflict that was never supposed to escalate beyond a few social media posts. The line between justice and revenge has never been this thin. And T.I.'s entire legacy, 20-plus years of music, of cultural contribution, of building something from nothing in Atlanta, may ultimately depend on which side of that line 50 Cent is truly standing on. And the most unsettling part of all of it? We may not know the answer until the cameras are already rolling and the content is already streaming to millions of screens worldwide. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear where you stand on this because I don't think there's a clean answer, and I believe the conversation itself matters more than any single perspective. If you appreciated this deep dive, the kind that goes beyond surface-level coverage and actually treats the subject with the complexity it deserves, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for the latest breakdowns and updates, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Until next time, stay informed, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.